Sugar in My Bowl presents composer and pianist Carla Bley. Join us as we discuss just a bit of Carla Bley's career in preparation for her rare New York appearance with her trio. That's Tuesday, March 12th at 10 p.m. right here on WBAI New York, 99.5 FM and WBAI.org on the web.
How does it feel?
It feels like times have changed.
Center yourself, to be present, to be here. It is always appropriate to be here. Contemplate. If you ever happen to be someplace and you contemplate, I'm not here, where are you? So in this moment, be here. Be here, wherever here happens to be. In this day and time, we have gathered together to contemplate, to dialogue this that is called
Niteshift again. Niteshift again. Niteshift again. Niteshift again. Niteshift again. Night shift 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 again. Night shift. Night shift again.
I'll be damn late.
Now, where are my people? 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 Where are my people?
You're tuned to listener-sponsored radio. WBAI 99.5 FM. The name of the show.
Niteshift.
And on the web at WBAI.org. It only happens here. It only happens once a week.
Niteshift.
Mondays, 10 p.m. till midnight.
Niteshift.
It's invisible, but you can feel it.
Niteshift.
Where life is like science fiction.
Niteshift.
I'm talking about it, and I have no idea. I have no idea. I have no idea why I'm here. I don't know what I'm doing, talking about this. I saw something, they saw something. There was a lot of light. That's all I remember.
I think there's no place to hide.
I wish they'd hurry up with that transmission. I want to go to bed.
I suggest that you reach deep down inside yourself there and try and find something that'll keep you awake just a little while longer, because this transmission coming up may just rekindle your will to live.
All right, this is Valley Forge, Berkshire, Sequoia. Valley Forge, Berkshire, Sequoia.
This is Com Central. Channel open for Executive Order AUC 3423.
Listen to this, boys.
A Bitcoin is a specific cryptocurrency. It's a protocol that allows you to exchange all kinds of things digitally that's wrapped around what's called a Bitcoin. So it's really a piece of code that has a certain value or is assigned to certain information, and that can be transacted digitally and instantly, fairly instantly, which obviously has all kinds of uses and has been growing rapidly despite the price fluctuations. It's been growing rapidly since it was introduced in late 2007. A blockchain is literally the underlying foundation of that cryptocurrency. So the blockchain is literally a verifiable digital ledger. It is literally the map that supports that cryptocurrency. It is the structure that allows that cryptocurrency to be moved around.
You're tuned to listener-sponsored radio, WBAI. The name of the show,
Night Shift.
We're going to talk about something, what we always talk about, that life is like science fiction. But here's what's interesting. There's something going on that you may have dismissed, you may know about. Cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, what is that all about? What does it mean? Do you understand it? Some people say it's a fad, it's a bubble, it's a tulip. I don't know if you know the tulip reference. The tulip was something that at one time became in such demand that you could start a business just on tulips. But tulip was one of the first bubbles that burst. And so we've seen this before, a fad. Is that what it is? Or is it like the internet, something that's going to transform our lives? That's what we're going to talk about here on listener-sponsored radio. The name of the show,
Night Shift.
Now, I have brought in someone very, very, very special to talk about the future of humanity, because that's what we're really talking about. We're talking about the future of humanity, and the theme of the show, the theme of tonight's show, is Bitcoins, blockchains, and the future of civilization. How technology transforms us individually, culturally, and globally. Jack Rico. This is, you come out now, Jack. So Jack Rico. So I'm gonna. Should I read a little of your bio here, or should I? You've been here on the show before. You're
not going to embarrass me, are you?
All right. Well, you could introduce yourself, but I could.
Oh, no, because that would sound so arrogant.
Okay.
Like, why would I do that?
All right, Jack Rico. You are the host of NBC's Consumer Reports. You are a culture critic. You're the creator of the Showbiz Cafe. You are
the host.
a frequent guest on everything from the Today Show to El Fusion. You're on Newsmax. You've been on ESPN because you're a big sports guy.
Telemundo, Fusion, ABC.
So your resume is more impressive than mine. and then so you're here, and I'm very happy to have you. And you have the most important thing, I think, right now, is that you have a podcast called
Highly Relevant.
Highly Relevant. And you talk about topics that are
very highly relevant.
Okay, exactly. And so is that how people can find you?
Yeah, iTunes, Spotify. Highly Relevant is essentially a Latinx pop culture podcast where we interview and have conversations with people that are sort of influencing and reshaping the way Hispanics are seen in popular culture and their interaction within the mainstream America. Because look, there are two mainstreams. There is the American, U.S. sold, export Hollywood mainstream. And then there's the Latino mainstream, the ones that are created by the system of the two-headed beast, which is Univision and Telemundo.
Okay.
So you add a couple of radio stations to that, and that is this micro bubble of mainstream that lives completely isolated from everything else, mainly due to language, but also because of cultural characteristics, that kind of don't really mesh in with America and meshes in more with Latin America. And that's like Miami. So what we're trying to do is, through pop culture, understand better, comprehend a little bit better through the arts and culture, music, movies, television, literature, whoever's really, really making something, a journalist, an executive that has crossed over and been sort of accepted into that mainstream, where their music as a Latinx or a Latino or a Latina can impact sort of an audience that has no judgment on their culture and their skin color, on their accents. And isn't that the true sort of goal of music, of film, of any art form?
Of any art form, I would agree. Well, let me ask you a question now, because as you say that, it makes me think. And again,
by the way, I don't think I've ever described it like this. So if you can get me a recording,
I'll get you a recording.
I'm going to forget what I just said.
No, that's fine. Well, first of all, the theme of the show is that life is like science fiction. That's the ongoing theme, and we talk about pop culture subjects. We talk about science. We talk about individuals. We're going to talk about individual achievements, but we're going to talk about Bitcoins and blockchains and understanding that and demystifying that a little bit. But also, more importantly, we're going to talk about the decentralization as a goal. And decentralization can apply to a lot of things, just like Bitcoin. When you understand what Bitcoin is, you can understand how that can be applied to different aspects of our society, which is, again, we're totally in science fiction, realm as far as I'm concerned. But here's what I want to ask you now. Here's an interesting thing to me, standing back, looking at the power structure of America, and especially where we are right now. It's been said, at least for the last 15, 20 years, that eventually, and again, in the last 20, 25 years, you're very used to everything being in English and Spanish. Almost any public service, there's an English and Spanish.
Oh, to me,
right.
Life is normal in two languages.
Exactly. Life is normal in two languages. That's the book. That's the book. That's the cover right there. All right. But here's my point. My point is, forget the bias of the quote unquote American who doesn't speak another language, but that fear of what we've been hearing the last 20 years, that eventually by whatever it is, 2050, 2040, Latinos will be the dominant culture.
Oh, yeah, and there's a threat to that.
And there's a threat to the power structure. And again, no matter race, culture, throughout history, whatever the power structure is that's in control, they're not going to let that go. So what's your thought on that? I mean, in terms of, like what you said, there are these two,
headed beasts
mm-hmm. in terms of culture. What's your thought on that? Do you think it's just standard trying to fight the inevitable, or do you have any other thoughts on that?
Listen, if you're asking about
the fear,
if Latino culture can belong here and no longer be invisible. And when I say invisible, let's be honest, it's the lack of coverage of mainstream media. When I say mainstream media, I am talking about the New York Times. I am talking about, Vanity Fair. I am talking about the elite institution literary papers that are read by the aristocracy, the power players, the ones that are sustained by that.
The culture icons that get money from the government.
Absolutely. The ones with the power plugs, that completely are the ones that dictate how it works. And for the most part, Latinos are invisible in that power structure. There's no Latino CEOs. I mean, look at Hollywood. The lack of Latino creators is a massive issue within our culture. The ability to have Latino power and wealth is very minute within the United States of America. And so for me, it's everything I do and everybody I talk to and everything I try to do is to improve that situation. My skill set is arts and culture and the media. And through that, I try to have conversations with people who allow me to understand better what we need to do to change the mindset of our whole culture as a whole. Like any Latino immigrant that comes here or any Latino that is born here, we deal with a couple of very, very old cultural notions that we sometimes can't shake off as the second-class citizenship. And we're an inferior species, where we don't belong in the same social brackets as everybody else. We struggle with a lot of these things that I happen to think are myths that we kind of been programmed to think like. But I think there's this new generation of Latinos that are breaking through that. And you could see it in the music, the fusion that's happening between Latin music, Black music, and even now you saw Casey Musgraves just the other day giving a tribute to Selena, the Mexican-American icon that was actually American, sometimes confused just as a Mexican, but she actually didn't even know Spanish, Selena, the one who was murdered.
Of course.
And she sang in Spanish. She sang in Spanish. So it was incredible. The other day, Cardi B broke a record at the Houston Rodeo of 77,580 attendees, three more than Garth Brooks. Look at that.
That's significant.
What does that say about Houston and that Latino population that's there? They might be a bit in the woods, but when they come out in force. So I do think that things are going to change. I do think that if we have more platforms to be able to conduct journalism within those communities as well, to also celebrate the talent that's coming out of our culture, whether it be in medicine, whether it be in corporate America. Who are the game changers? Who are the disruptors that are Latinos, And I think our community needs to start thinking more that everything is completely possible in 2019 because of the technology that we have, And this documentary that I saw with you today, The Trust Machine.
The Trust Machine.
The story of blockchain.
The story of blockchain.
Directed by Alex Winters was so illuminating because we are shut off to a lot of information in our society, and that's done deliberately.
Absolutely. And part of what now, for those who don't really understand blockchain, let's go back a little bit, because he also did a documentary on Napster. It was called Downloaded, which I got to talk to him a little bit about. And, that film and Napster is an interesting lesson, I think, in terms of what Napster was trying to do and was unable to do, but what the industry ended up being. Okay.
Right.
Okay. It became, because, peer-to-peer just means, again, this is back to the issue of what decentralization means. Peer-to-peer means that everybody's equal. I could share you, whatever you got, you could share with me, PayPal. Well, exactly. And do you have, what's the other one? There's PayPal. Venmo. Okay. Do you have those?
Yeah.
All right. Do you find it weird, okay, that Venmo tells you what other people are doing, that other people are
I think
money? That's kind of weird to me.
It is a little bit weird. And
okay,
it's a bigger notion of, our paranoias with privacy and how we're so guarded.
But why do I need to know that you paid somebody back for a cupcake? Why is that of any remote interest?
If it's still happening, it's because no one's really complained enough.
Well, it's sort of like they added it for no reason. It's just sort of, like comments on a photo. I don't know. I didn't. Okay. I thought it was just me. All right. But
a little hard.
Just, it's like, thanks, dinner. Okay. Great. Jack had dinner and gave somebody money back. So, maybe it shows us how much we all run out without our wallets. You know what I'm saying? So, and we're all loaning each other money. All right. Anyway, coming back to the whole BitChain concept and the idea of peer-to-peer and the lessons from Napster, I'm just, I spoke to him about it. I want to play the soundbite we talked about Napster and that whole, what happened there, and then I'll lead us into what we're going to talk about. But you're tuned to listener-sponsored radio, WBAI 99.5 FM. I'm Mike Sargent. I'm here with Jack Rico, and this show comes on Mondays from 10 p.m. till midnight, and we're looking at the human condition today and where that's going to go in the future. The name of the show:
Night Shift.
So I'm gonna set you up for this clip. I asked him, again, as a film critic, but I'm also a filmmaker, as you know, and finishing a documentary.
Oh, you're a
own.
Truffaut.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Just like Francois. So I asked him. I said, one of the hardest things to do for a documentary is a documentary about a topic or a subject, because a documentary about a person or a band or a group or an ensemble.
This is a topic.
This is a topic, so it's a harder documentary to do in terms of keeping people engaged. It's information. You've got to be digesting it.
There's a lot of information.
There's a lot of information. You got to care.
Which is what that movie, The Big Short by Adam McKay, was so instrumental in creating, like, this new explainer culture that we have in videos
now. And again, there are a number of media outlets that have taken that on, like Vice. But I do want to say, so we talked. I asked him, what do you think about that challenge, and why does that attract you, to do as a documentary? So that's what he's answering here.
Absolutely. I like untangling knots.
That's very well good way of looking at it. Okay.
And a subject is, especially a compelling one, or one that has interesting themes or dynamic themes, is going to be knotty and is going to require untangling. And what I try to do with the docs that I make that work in that way is untangle the knot in an entertaining and a compelling way. So basically, the audience is untangling the knot with us, and that becomes in a way, part of the narrative itself, which is, that was the challenge I had with the Napster story. Was you have these two really compelling characters at the center of it, and yet they were. It's one of the reasons I wanted to make it. They were largely misunderstood. I don't mean it meant they were good as opposed to bad. It's not that black and white. But they were misunderstood. They were not known. They were misknown, I would say. And so they weren't going to be an easy subject for the audience to just wrap their heads around, because I knew the audience was going to come to the film with a lot of preconceptions and mostly misconceptions. So I wanted to untangle the knot of what was Napster, why did it matter, what were they trying to do, and have that process be a process that the audience took the journey with us with, rather than me just making a proclamation. This is what Napster is. I'm going to tell you what it is, and you're just going to listen. To me, it's a more active process than that, because I'm not an authority. I'm the person with maybe a set of knowledge that may supersede the audience's to some degree, but I don't want to be that didactic and say my opinion on this is the opinion that you just now need to absorb. Let's untangle this knot together and see what that shows us. And that's what I love about docs, is that docs don't have to be so cut and dried. A narrative usually tends, in order for the audience to know even what they're watching, it tends to need to side pretty hard on one side or the other of a subject. And a doc does not have to do that at all. It can stay firmly in the gray and say, I may be presenting someone that you may not like aspects of and like aspects of. You may find this person or this subject confusing or complex or paradoxical. That's all good, because life is all of those things.
Most people.
All right, I will go to the other part after that. But now I thought that was very interesting, Jack. And I also thought that it brings up a number of interesting points. What were your thoughts, though, just on Napster and how that it did change music and distribution, how we take in music, how we get it? Because I feel we live in an on-demand culture where it used to be...
it's a la carte.
It's a la carte, but we have the choice. There was a time where you had to wait till a song you like came on the radio, or you had to buy it.
Right.
Okay. You had to wait till your show came on. Okay. Maybe VHS and or video recording allowed you to record a show, but you still had to wait till it came on, even if you couldn't watch it at the time it came on.
Right. What we're talking here is the bigger theme of decentralization. It's the it's being able to interact with the rest of society without having someone control
with no
our economy. control our tastes, and now sucking our privacy, our traits to be studied and cannibalized to a certain extent for profit. And that's the darn reality of this documentary, and what Alex has been able to do with Napster, downloaded the documentary about Napster, and now Trust Machine, which is about blockchain. If you haven't heard about the film, guys, essentially it's a documentary by this wonderful director named Alex Winter, who... This guy has a really good knack for being able to, like he said, untangle the complicated. Bring him a math problem, man. This guy's Goodwill Hunting for the filmmaking, directors, man. This guy's amazing. And so it's so much information about blockchain and Bitcoin that he gives it to you level by level. He makes sure that he exhausts
It's the first time I understood what blockchain is.
Absolutely.
I never really got it until I saw this documentary.
Right, and he doesn't dumb it down. So he's not like talking down at you in any patronizing or condescending way. It's smart, except that it's not too smart.
Right.
It's just
not
on the nose.
It's just on the nose, and I would call it intellectually digestible. Okay?
Yes.
Okay, and here's the thing. What's really interesting to me about the documentary is once you understand what Bitcoin is, and once you understand what this whole concept of blockchain and cryptocurrency, really, what is cryptocurrency?
Mm-hmm.
What is all of that? Once you understand it, you realize this same technology can be applied to the rest of our lives. And then what? Everything that we have been relying on, whether we wanted to or not, because he talks about the early days of the internet, and we talk about that too, because the internet was something, we're old enough to remember when it happened, and he talks about that, and I'll play that clip too. But understanding this, and so I'm going to play the explanation, which I played earlier, of what a blockchain and what a Bitcoin and what cryptocurrency is. It's about 3 minutes long, but really pay attention, because you need to understand it, because it will affect your life. That's the life is like science fiction part. I mean, did you get that from all of this?
Oh, of course. And I'm very curious to see what he had to say, because I have my own opinions of how I interpreted all that information.
Fantastic. Well, you are tuned to listener-sponsored radio, WBAI, and this is Night Shift, where life is like science fiction.
Most people don't really understand what Bitcoin is or what a blockchain is, and I want to say it to you in my rough understanding, and then you maybe can fill in the blanks, and then tell me a little bit about how you got introduced to the topic and why you wanted to make a film. Bitcoin is essentially an application or a program that's enormously secure, and blockchains, in the simplest of terms, are the elements that are part of that program. Am I wrong? Can you help me out here?
You're actually very close to right. Yes, that is actually pretty accurate. A Bitcoin is a specific cryptocurrency. It's a protocol that allows you to exchange all kinds of things digitally that's wrapped around what's called a Bitcoin. So it's really a piece of code that has a certain value or is assigned to certain information, and that can be transacted digitally and instantly, fairly instantly, which obviously has all kinds of uses and has been growing rapidly despite the price fluctuations. Has been growing rapidly since it was introduced in late 2007. A blockchain is literally the underlying foundation of that cryptocurrency. So the blockchain is literally a verifiable digital ledger. It is literally the math that supports that cryptocurrency. It is the structure that allows that cryptocurrency to be moved around. Now, what it is, in the briefest and simplest of terms, is a ledger. It is essentially, it's not an exact comparison, but a somewhat muddy comparison. If you think about Google Docs, or any of these sort of open source document applications where, let's say you and I are both working on a document at the same time. Because that is a networked application, you can type on that document in New York or wherever you are. I will see your words immediately where I am. We are connected onto that application. The blockchain is very similar. It's not an exact comparison, but it's similar in the sense that everyone who is engaged in that blockchain, all of the nodes of that blockchain are on it simultaneously all around the world, wherever they are. It's whatever number of computers are connected to that system at the same time, verified with very strong encryption to prevent, somebody from hacking it or corrupting it in some way or coming in and breaking that system. So there's a lot of different uses for that. And we're seeing kind of what I wanted to make a film about was this new, we had the big internet rise and fall of the late 90s that then gave way to really the fundamental changes that the internet did bring on. And I could see from where we were sitting that we're in a very similar place in terms of blockchain-based technology, cryptocurrencies, where that we were with the internet bubble back in the 90s, where there was all this speculation, all this hype, a lot of baloney and BS, frankly. I knew that bubble was going to pop. And then we would sort of ride into this period that we're going to now head into where blockchain-based technologies do start to create some fundamental change. And that bubble, to me, seemed like a very fascinating story to tell in terms of how to come at the blockchain story. We made the film right as as this bubble was rising, and we ended the film, luckily for us, production-wise, just after the bubble popped.
As Spock would say, fascinating.
Listen, even he didn't break it down to the point that it's extremely digestible. And to me, here's what it is. Bitcoin is the breaking of the old model of the way we view money into a brand new model of the way we will be looking at money.
Absolutely.
That's what Bitcoin is. It's digital money. And the blockchain is the engine or the map, the brain map that allows the Bitcoin to function. To me, it's more like the brain, right? It's a process. It's a processor. Think of it like the Matrix, that makes everything kind of go. And once I kind of started understanding it from that point of view, that it really doesn't have to do, the technology of blockchain isn't just exclusive to money.
Exactly.
It expands itself into almost anything you can think its use for. For example, energy. That kind of blew my mind about
That blew my mind too. Blew my mind.
I had no idea that blockchain could be framed within the energy conversation.
Because essentially it's a program. It's an application. It's an application. It's an encrypted application that can't be corrupted.
Right.
To me,
like with iTunes, any iTunes thing, anything that you use with Apple
has some sort of encryption.
So think of blockchain as that encryption, but perhaps the greatest.
There could be no more fraud
in the history of
there
technology.
There could be
right?
no more, and so
it's
that was what was interesting.
Right.
Yeah, that was what was also really interesting. If you look at what the definition of decentralization is, and decentralization is a concept. I'm going to read it to you. It says the importance of decentralization to an organization are as follows. Decentralization can be defined as even and systematic distribution of authority at every level of management. Decentralization is a policy matter, and managers plan in advance whether to go for controlled or decentralized policy. And we all know that we are clearly in a very centralized, not just our government, but every advancement in technology in some way gets centralized. Shopping is becoming a very different thing than it was.
Right.
Because that old model is going the way. The gradual change we can accept. When it's too fast, it seems, what do you mean CDs? Records are better. What do you mean tape? What are you talking about? What digital MP3 player? What is that? So,
it's interesting that you say that because you start looking at the political aspects of what blockchain can do. it has its dark sides, man.
Yes, it does.
It has its dark sides, and I think that's where good and bad will always rule even in technology. So, for example, Venezuela.
Good and bad will always rule. Sounds like, Lord of the Rings.
And it's just really interesting the way that the documentary also spoke about how blockchain, you can actually make money off of it.
Absolutely. You with something called mining.
Mining, exactly. Which was something new to me because obviously, I don't have conversations with people about stuff like that. But it's so enlightening, and it almost makes you feel like, duh, why didn't I know about that,
Well, I'm going to play another soundbite from Alex, and we're going to move on. I'm also going to bring in Chris, who's been the co-host since Niteshift began, and then we're going to actually take calls, and we're going to talk about this because part of the theme of the show, what we're going to get into in the second hour, is not just what Napster taught us and decentralization as a concept, but how our access to music, movies, books, and information today versus 25 or 50 years ago, and how has that changed us as a society? How do we interact differently? When I say we're an on-demand society, that on-demand spills into dating. The way, human interaction has a different value than it did. Okay? There was a time when emails replaced letters. But now with instant communication, you can ghost someone. You can, you can misconceive a text and there's so many ways in which we've changed not just how we entertain ourselves, but how we educate ourselves. We have access to the world, but we tend to only gravitate, and the decentralization pushes us towards, the things you already know. I mean, I've already watched it happen where I was talking to someone or something and I said Japan. Next thing you know, like Japan shows up on like an ad in the phone. Yes, this is a thing. Listen to me. If you don't know now that your phone is always recording you, and there are keywords, a certain amount of them that will key in to advertisers who have paid to have access to you as you're being recorded.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me?
Let me tell you what. Go home. Listen to me. Go home.
Are you sure this isn't a conspiracy theory?
Of course it's conspiracy now until it's proved. Listen, there are tons of articles on it, but this is what I suggest you do.
Obviously there's movies.
Listen to me. Do this. Just say whatever it is. Japan. Say something. Sauna. Just say it a few times. Yeah, I was thinking about a sauna.
Yeah.
Guarantee the next time you go on your phone, one of the ads that's going to pop up is about a sauna or about Japan or whatever. I've watched it happen. I accept it because this life is like science fiction of it all. Anyway, so that's where we're going to go in the next hour. But I have another segment I'm going to play from Alex talking about the film and why he wanted to make a film like this and what the interest is. So stay tuned. Listener-sponsored radio. We're talking about Alex Winter. And here's the interesting thing. You said it's about like being in the Matrix. You remember said that?
Yeah.
Okay, here's the irony of that statement. Alex Winter, if you've ever seen Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, that's Alex Winter. He was... Who was he Bill or Ted? Who was it? Keanu?
Oh, no. He
Keanu
was definitely...
Who was Keanu Reeves? He was Bill or Ted? Whatever, whoever he was.
What? That's a
yeah,
really
it's a good question. I don't know who was Bill. I don't know who was Ted. Whoever Keanu Reeves was not, that's who Alex Winter was. And I did it at the very end. I asked him about, number 3 is coming. I don't know if you know. The number 3, they've announced it. It's Anyway, stay tuned.
So much about technology or science It's people reject it because they don't understand it, and then eventually they just embrace it. Most people have no idea how a CD works or how a cell phone works or even how a computer works. They just know how to interface with it because there's, they know how to use it. They don't have any idea really how it works. So I see this in very similar ways. It's like most people really don't understand even how Wall Street works. But you invest in it, you understand it enough to play in there, but you just accept all of the quote-unquote checks and balances that should be there to not feel you're being cheated. Now, how, just for those who really don't understand maybe either too well, how is this the great disruptor for people, and why was it important for you to show some of that in your film?
Yeah, I think that the information age is obviously highly disruptive to human society globally. It already has disrupted human society in ways that are both unknown to people and overwhelming. And then in some almost superficial ways, like your iPhone or Netflix or whatever, has added conveniences, right, to us. But there's a lot of fear, and largely, to your point, almost a completely pervasive lack of comprehension as to what's actually going on and how it works.
Right.
And I didn't seek to, and I never do with any of my documentaries, I didn't seek to explain to people how these technology works, because I honestly have no interest in doing that. And that we live in the age of Google. And if you're really interested in sort of how the internet or blockchain works, you can literally type in what is blockchain, and you'll get some fantastic, very brief explainers that will tell you as much as any layman would ever need to know what this stuff is. And so I sort of assume that if people were curious about this world, they'd probably either Googled it already, or my film would really allow them to enter this space via people, and which is of course what's most important to me, was to make a documentary about who are some of the most compelling people in this space right now, and also out of those people, who best represent the different facets of why this story is important. So you have Lowry Love, who's a young computer scientist, very brilliant computer scientist, hacker, and a political activist, extremely renowned in the tech political activism space, who's facing, when I entered the story, was facing a 100-year jail sentence and extradition to the United States from the UK by the DOJ. Not that they had ever told him what the charges were, but from what we could gather, they were accusing him of hacking DOJ websites to protest the death of Aaron Swartz, who was another political activist who hanged himself several years back. So you're dealing with a blockchain enthusiast, computer scientist, forward thinker, political activist who was facing a 100-year jail sentence essentially for a political protest. So that's a story worth covering. That tape that shows, a huge aspect of how is society responding to these technological changes that are so disruptive, and their fears of what that disruption may or may not even mean. And in this case, it's the U.S. government. And then you have, business titans who are very pro-blockchain and really want to embrace it and think it's going to change, business. And then you have financial titans who think it's going to change Wall Street, or they're afraid it's going to change Wall Street. And then you have people from the UN, and NGOs and humanitarian aid organizations who are interested in using blockchain technology to help refugees, and the fact that we live in this, extremely volatile, war-torn world at the moment, and so we have an enormous refugee problem around the world, and they're looking. And then you have climate change. So it was really a question of focusing, drilling down into what I called an ensemble cast. A very specific group of people that we would follow through the film, who represented different aspects of this story. And I really treated it like an ensemble, and I didn't cast my net too wide, and I kept it very specific to a certain group of people, and then I followed their stories within that narrative.
All right, as I said, you are tuned to listener-sponsored radio, WBAI 99.5 FM in New York and on the web at WBAI.org. I'm Mike Sargent. This is Night Shift. We've been talking with Alex Winter, who is a director of a new film that comes out Friday. It's called The Trust Machine, and it's a really fascinating look at Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, blockchain, and it really does demystify it. You know, Jack Rico is here joining me in the studio, and he's helped even just demystify it even further. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk specifically, though, about how technology has changed the way we interact, the way we live, the way we view society in many ways. You know, one of the things, you mentioned this mining in the film, but you know, it touched upon so many different things. I'll tell you what I came with. I was like, wow, the whole idea of something that's uncorruptible.
Like a bureaucrat. Remember that quote?
Yeah, right. Yes.
Bitcoin, or is it blockchain, is like a bureaucrat.
A bureaucrat, right. But uncorruptible.
Imagine a bureaucrat that's uncorruptible.
and I love that, because imagine if we had a system like that for voting.
Oh, I think that they're experimenting with it already.
That's where we need to go. That's where we need to go. I mean, imagine if we had that level of parity. So I say all that to say, you know, and the guy in was it Lagos or wherever it was, where, you know, he literally that's what he's doing. He's mining because he knows enough about technology. He's got a middle class living, and it's all, like you said, digital money. So, you know, digital money seems strange right now, but in reality, it's all digital money. We just are paying people to handle our money, which is one of the things they bring up in the bank.
That's right.
Like,
that's
you
what
make
the
a
bank
transaction.
Is. The bank is just a ledger.
Yep.
It's a ledger, and Bitcoin is the perfect ledger.
Exactly.
That's the difference between both. And the banks are, right now, they are
as against this as you could be.
They are completely doing a full press court on trying to make Bitcoin seem probably what radio was talking about TV, you know?
Right.
You know, the TV's not going to work. That's just a fad.
Exactly.
Come on, you know, radio's where it's at.
Sure. Listen, you know, same thing with any jump in technology. So, Chris, are you there? Hello, Chris?
Yes.
It's Chris.
Hello, Jack.
Hey, what's going on, Chris?
All right. How you doing tonight?
All right. So, Chris, I'm going to ask Chris the first question. Part of the question is, and part of the bringing us into the conversation here for the rest of the show, because people have been calling, and I haven't been taking the calls while we've been talking.
I have one comment, though, before you drop me in there.
All right.
Napster killed the music business. Innovative as it was, it helped kill the music business. It really did. It made it so everybody got comfortable with not paying for music. And that eventually led us into Apple, which was able to bring all the record companies together. But that is pretty much what I see from a lot of people, that they feel that.
I mean, Napster definitely wasn't perfect in any way, but it was interesting because in this documentary, Trust Machine, they talk about sort of the new future music business industry through the blockchain.
Yes, they do. Yes,
because
they
you get rid of the record label, and it's consumer to consumer, or what they call B2B, right? And Napster, I think, was trying to somehow create a seed that would kind of maybe make what blockchain is for artists today. I think it's still in its infancies, and you just need to experiment more with it. But, you know, I give at least the ability of the guy. What's the guy's name from Napster?
Sean.
Yeah.
Sean. Let's just leave it at Sean.
Sean Parker.
Sean Parker.
Right.
Sean Parker.
Sean Parker probably had a good idea in there somewhere that kind of just went wrong.
Well, not only that, but this is coming back to
he
had a great idea.
The concept is good. I love downloading free music, you know, and I'm a musician and everything else. And I shouldn't even say that, but who doesn't love to download free music? I get it. In the end, somebody's not getting paid, and somebody's losing. And in the end, if the psychology behind it is, hey man, why should we pay for something that we can get for free, then leads to the dichotomy and the breaking down of the system of what was in place. I'm not saying the record companies didn't make a hell of a lot of money.
But you know, I got to say this. You know, why pay for something we couldn't forget? Why overpay is really the question. You know, when
oh my God, with fashion.
when CDs came along, you know, CDs could have been manufactured a lot cheaper than they were manufactured. It got to the point they were really cheap,
$18.
and it was ridiculous. They were charging so much because you know a record was $7.95, a CD was $15.95.
Let's give you the gold-plated version of the Frank Sinatra classic.
Exactly. So, you know,
come by me.
Exactly. A humdinger. So you know, to me, I think that the record industry, just like the film industry is complaining about Netflix, it's like they did it to themselves. They cannibalized themselves. You know, they started releasing things so quickly. Like, why go to the movie if you know it's going to be on DVD in 3 months? There's no point. You know, you know, streaming was just the next alternative.
Hey, can you believe that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is already out on DVD?
Of course, everything's out.
I mean,
everything's out.
Isn't it still in theaters?
Yes, and listen, Oscars stuff that was being Oscar nominated was already on Blu-ray. You know, so the industry now coming back to the impact, and then the question I want to ask Chris, which is, you know, and it's a two-part question. What is and the first part is, what is the best innovation or invention of your lifetime and how to change your life? In your opinion, what was the best invention or innovation of your lifetime?
At this point now, probably the iPhone.
Really? Okay. I made a list of stuff like that.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff, but you know, the iPhone, because especially the iPhone now, like what you can do with it. You know, I can't.
You don't even have a computer anymore, do you?
I don't. I can work on music in GarageBand, mess around with some simple, like, you know, music ideas. You know, go out and shoot something with the camera on there is like 4K. Edit it in iMovie. Throw the music on there.
So, in other words, the iPhone is your artistic Swiss Army knife. Is that what you're saying?
That's great. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, you can use an old phone, right? Like you can use an old phone that you just has internet access on it. Some of the old phones you could still get internet access. But let's just say use the old phone. You can record an idea on your old phone, like just some rough idea. Let's say if you're playing something live, play it with the one phone and record it with your other one, just if you want to do something quick. And the quality is mind-blowing. I mean, just as messing around, where you don't even have to like sit there and bring a bunch of tracks up and just talk about like roughing some ideas. Let's say if you want to work a tune idea out. So just the tools today, I love it. I mean, I go out and shoot a whole thing, a parade, a quick thing that happens at an event, edit it, put some music on it or not or whatever, mess around, add some colorful little things to it, put some sound effects on it, and put it up on YouTube.
So you should listen. You need to contact Apple and be a commercial for them, because you're like,
listen,
this is it. Yes, if you want to record the parade. Okay, yeah, I'm with.
There's two things that the iPhone has disrupted. Number one, the landline phone in your house.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know most people. I have a landline, and most people like a landline.
Yes,
that's so late 20th century of
phone
you.
Numbers, it's like, do you have a landline? And if you have one, you look sophisticated.
Right, and I have people who text me on my landline thinking, and I'll get, you have a text to landline call. Hello, Mike. I am texting you because I cannot reach you. I'm like, oh my God. Don't they know?
And the second thing it's disrupted is the camera business, the DSLRs.
Absolutely.
Buddy,
you could buy a DSLR for nothing, peanuts, on like a great camera online for nothing.
They had to.
You can shoot with the 4K on it.
4K at 120 frames per second, which is what a DSLR was created to do. Now your phone, which is the same one that you're texting and Instagram,
and your phone has multiple lenses.
Yeah,
like 7 lenses to create that image that looks like reality.
Oh, and it's even better than a DSLR from the perspective that at any moment you can just reverse that lens to look at you, something a DSLR cannot do.
That's true. That's very true.
So when you look at photography, from that perspective, it's disrupted those two things like anyone else. So, dude, I am so with you that iPhone is probably the watershed moment from our analog era.
It changed Chris's life. It changed his life.
No,
Or
and it
digitalized.
depends on even if how big your hard drive is. I mean, you can just you don't have to like download everything.
You never have to go home.
You still have to
I
go
can
home.
live my life online.
No, and like Mike was just sending me. I started watching, the Machine movie, and got to the first 15 minutes. By the way, so far it looks great. And if you guys,
It's amazing. Listen to me. It's amazing. Mind blowing.
Yeah.
And obviously, Alex Winter, is a total innovator. He was that whole Zappa, which you didn't even talk about. Zappa.
By the way, he's Ted in the Bill and Ted films.
Ted in the Bill and Ted films.
Yeah, he's Bill. Yeah, he's Bill.
No,
he's Ted. He's Ted. He's Ted. He's Ted.
He's Ted.
No, he's Bill.
No, I just IMDb'd it.
You sure?
Yeah.
Battle of the movie info.
He's Bill.
No, he's Ted. He's Bill. He's Ted. He's Bill. He's Ted. He's Bill.
Did I?
He's Ted.
Oh, he's Bill. Oh my God, he's
Still
Bill.
looking at Chris's win. Chris wins.
He's Bill.
Ding. Chris
He's Bill.
wins.
He's Bill.
Chris wins. How dare you? How dare you?
One point on that. I remember years ago sending people to go see Bill and Ted Texas
Yes,
Adventure.
I remember. We
When it
went
was
to
in
the
theater.
screening of that. We went with Jeff Gomez.
Yeah, people got mad at me. They were like, "Why did you send me this?" I said, "I thought it was great."
They're doing
Their third film. That's what I said. They're doing the third film. It's Bill and, it's amazing.
It's
and
official. I mean, it's like
I asked him about it. I had to ask him about it. Of course.
Oh,
I
what
had
did he
to.
tell you?
Well, he told me that they don't have a shoot date yet, but they've had the script done since 2011.
What?
Yes, they've had it done. They've been trying to get it done. They've been trying to get it made. But, a number of things have happened. His films have been doing okay, but Keanu Reeves has had John Wick has really put him back on the A-list map.
Right.
Okay.
Action stuff.
Because he'll do John Wick and then he'll do like
an art house romance film.
Exactly.
Like a
what
Lifetime.
that nobody saw, So, but now he's on to the third one. They're like, all right, Keanu, what do you want?
But look at it, like even the invention of Kickstarter, even for him to have raised 1.2 million to Zappa.
Right. You said your brother was involved with the one of his films.
My brother, put up some money and he wound up getting a bunch of stuff from them. They actually took out of Zappa's house the snake, the audio snake that went from however they set it up in the recording room, control room. I did a lot of those records, and they actually chopped it up and gave everybody, whatever 5 inches of the actual snake audio cable.
5 inches of snake.
5 inches of snake. I mean, it sounds kind of stupid.
This sounds like an album to me.
5 inches of snake. The new band.
5 inches of snake live. It's a band. It's a band.
And I think even Kickstarter, even the idea of Kickstarter, if Jack decided he wanted to make some kind of a documentary himself or whoever, anybody, you could just put your thing up there, and if you have enough followers and podcasts and such, who knows? You could use $500,000 and put out that documentary.
Listen to me, Jack. You do not know Jack has quite a following.
Yeah, well,
Jack. He's Jack Rico.
He can raise $2 million, $5 million
easily. He's Jack Rico. Jacko. He's got a national show on NBC. Who are you talking about? He's Jack Rico. Anyway, you are tuned to Listener Sponsored Radio, WBAI, and I'm going to give out the phone number people can call. It is now 11:06, and I want you to know in the last 6 minutes, what we did was compress time. We did twice the show in half the time, and you didn't even realize it. Mm-hmm. Stay tuned.
I'm old enough that I got online in the 80s, and there wasn't even a web yet. And it was a very, very inspiring and liberating space. It was the early days of the internet for the average user, which is what I am. I'm not a coder. was, what we called the Usenet or BBS era, news groups. It was a community. It was a legitimate community, and it was decentralized, meaning there was no central point of control. No governments or corporations controlled it. This was not sticking in your AOL disk and connecting to the internet via AOL. This was just you and a modem and your computer connecting to, honestly, millions of people around the world, able to. And we were transferring media back then. We were sharing things. It was like, here's some art I'm interested in. Here's books I'm interested in. Whatever. Very radical political discourse was going on at that time. Within a couple of years, all of that, it didn't completely end, but it was seriously curtailed by the rapid centralization of the internet, which was you had AOL, and then eventually you had Facebook, Google, Yahoo, YouTube, and suddenly you had a monopoly, Amazon, of corporate entities that basically were controlling the internet, and governments that began to clamp down on it. So to me, the blockchain, the moment that we're in is similar in that there are all of these really crazy people in this space who are really interested in trying to see what they can use these technologies for, because a digital ledger can be used for everything from moving cryptocurrency around to you can build contracts into it, which would completely change the way international law, contracts work, which would be a huge change to humanity, frankly. We haven't changed the way copyright and the basic manner in which we create laws in hundreds and hundreds of years. So there are networks that you can build onto it. You can circumnavigate telecoms and create mesh networks that allow you to communicate even with phones that don't require phone companies. And obviously this is all exploratory at this point, but it's a moment that gives you a peek into where we're going and how much more connected we will be and how much possibility there is for the ability for the individual to have potentially more agency over their own information, how they communicate, how they conduct business. It gives you a sort of peek as to where things are going, but we're not there yet. So it's a great subject for a documentary because it's really just kind of a little windows opening a little bit. There's an enormous amount of naysayers. I mean, there are people who just think this whole thing is a complete fiasco and not true and won't change anything. But from where I'm sitting, having been around the internet for a long time, it was really clear to me that is not true. That's a kind of a knee-jerk negative reaction that's, I think, largely based in fear and certainly a complete lack of understanding how these technologies work. But there is a lot of hype. There are people who are, ramming into the space and claiming it's going to, literally brush your teeth and clean your house and make you rich. And we probably won't do any of those things, but it is going to fundamentally shift the way human beings interact. And that, I think, is inevitable. It's also relatively unsexy. I think that the way that'll happen is similar to to the way the internet became unsexy, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's like who sits around talking about how web browsers work? We don't, but they do control. They could, like you said yourself about people don't know how their iPhones work, but they sure as hell use them. And I think this is going to be very similar to that.
And you're still tuned to listener-sponsored radio, WBAI 99.5 FM. And this is still Night Shift, and it is now exactly 11:11 on the 11th of March. All right, so I'm going to give out the phone number here. The phone number here is 212-209-2877. And the question is, what is the best invention or innovation of your lifetime, and how did it change your life? And I'm going to ask you now, Jack. In your lifetime, what was the best innovation or invention, and how did it change your life?
The video game console box.
Stop. Talk to me.
The Atari 2600. I could never afford the 5200, but remember the Sega Genesis, the Nintendo.
Yeah, you're talking to the audience, but not me, because I never played video games.
You never what?
Never.
Listen,
not at all.
He sat there and played Pong.
Okay, come on, Chris. You know that video games were the babysitters of parents.
Listen, I understand that
for most of our childhood, man.
But I was like, talk to me.
When that came out, I'm going to let him talk. But when that came out, okay, I felt like a little kid that wasn't able to ever get a GI Joe, because I remember kids having the Atari 2600, and I couldn't afford it even at that time, and I was so mad.
Chris,
they were like, look at it, we got video. Yes.
When I got my Atari, I felt we got a family car. That was like my reaction. Like, you walk outside and it's...
Exactly.
You got a brand new car. Like, it's a life-changing thing. You can now travel to another city.
Just so you know, Chris still feels like he's a little kid who didn't get the G.I. Joe. He still feels that way today. All right? Just so you know, it has nothing to do with Atari. All right, so the Atari 2600, really, that was it.
I was never...
Now, what did it do for you? What was... talk to me.
Basically, when you watch the TV screen, it was always under the guise that there was no interactivity with it.
No agency.
No agency. Oh. And the video game changed that. You can now interact with the television. You made the figure or the cartoon character in the TV move. You were in control. As opposed to being a participant, you were just in control. And that domination, I think, is unconscious when it comes to video games.
That domination isn't the unconscious domination.
You're in control, and that was like one of the very few things that I remember being fully in control of. And, when you're a little kid, sometimes you're bullied, you're not bigger than the others. You try to find places where you feel, valuable, and it was fun. I liked what it did.
212-209-2877. What innovation or invention changed your life? All right, who's here? Hello, you're on the air.
It's Tom from the Bronx.
Tom from the Bronx. What technology changed your life, Tom?
Well, I think when analog TV went out and digital came in.
It changed your life?
Yeah, because...
Everything was sharp.
Because I don't have the TV anymore.
I understand. So now you no longer have TV. You have to interact with other humans. Stay there, Tom. Hello, you're on the air.
Yes. Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I wanted to do two things. Hello.
Stay there, Sam. I'm still. You're still there. And what's your name, ma'am? What's your name?
I'm Diane.
All right, Diane. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Here was the issue. You had started talking about Bitcoin and
blockchains. Yes.
And maybe you moved on from that conversation, but I just wanted to thank you.
Okay.
Okay, for just kind of like tickling my mind, okay? Because yes. I had read about it, and I had I thought the blockchain business I thought was more like a ledger, which is what you had said.
Yes, it is.
But I thought the important part of it was that it has to have, I think, a time marker too.
Yes, it
And-
does.
Interesting.
It does. Yes, it
And
does.
the fact that it's like simultaneously, it could be sent out to the universe, and people are all looking, or maybe like use it to participate in some activity, and then you have timestamps on what you're doing as part of that group.
Okay.
So
okay.
if you wanted to get people to get credit, for whatever they're doing, now whoever's the first one that has the timestamp on it, then you get the credit for being that part of it.
Well,
So that was what I thought about that.
That's what
idea.
you thought. Well, he talked about copyright and how that could change.
Oh, I didn't hear that
copyright.
part. Okay,
Well,
I was.
It's
I
okay.
got
Well, I
lost.
definitely suggest that you watch a film, and we also talk. I didn't play this part of the interview. I'll play that on Thursday. I do a show Thursday mornings from 10 a.m. till noon, and in there I do a film review show called Real World, and I'll play some of. He's releasing the film on a brand new platform, and it's a peer-to-peer platform. Again, that's not monetized by any corporate or centralized structure. And one of the things that you keyed in on is just the idea of a ledger, of knowing when you did what you did.
Yeah.
And that's part of what's happening with social media and the technology of everybody having a camera. It's harder for people to lie. It's harder for police to deny they did something when people are videoing it.
So that would mean kind of that
it would mean accountability,
all looking.
and that's a huge change from part of what the technology has done is allowed us to be anonymous, allowed people to be trolls, to come up with fake names, to say things, to have bots, to have anonymity.
But be anonymous.
Exactly,
Be anonymous
exactly.
with it, too.
The anonymity and evil deeds under anonymity. And what something like this suggests, accountability. Ultimate accountability. And that's frightening for those who would like to be the
Want to
arbiters
keep things,
of accountability. Do you concur, Jack Rico?
I totally agree, and I think she hit a really good point with the time marker.
Yes.
Or the timestamp, I think it was.
Yes.
The timestamp. Yeah, it's blockchain right now is a little bit of the wild, wild west. But I think brand new branches are bringing in their intellectuals to come in and assess the situation and how they can, think of this the way the gold mine of the 1920s.
Yeah, Chris, is that you beeping? What is that?
No.
Uh-oh.
Is that you beeping,
listen,
sir? Yes.
Listen, this is an interesting conversation. I just wish it was a little earlier because now I have to do some yoga or something so I can, clear my or settle down my mind.
Listen, we tickle your mind so that you have to calm down.
So you can use that one.
I'm going to use that. Yes. Night shift.
Okay.
We
All right,
tickle your
take
mind.
care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was really weird. Somebody was calling her. She was clearly socially active. Hello, you're on the air.
I'm waiting for analog TV to come back. I'm waiting.
Yeah, I understand, Tom. Listen, Chris is waiting with you. He's standing by your side.
See,
what is that sound? What is that? Chris, that's you.
No, it's not me. I'm not doing anything.
Chris, you're the only one on the line now. If it beeps again,
now we know it's Chris.
It's you.
If it beeps again, no one's calling.
All right, this is the music where we're waiting. Aha! It's you, Chris.
I'm not.
That's you. I'm telling you that beeping
It's
is you.
not me. I'm not doing anything with the phone.
You're the only one on the line.
It's a ghost beep, Mike. It's a ghost beep.
I got you.
Seriously, you have any lines up?
You're on the line by yourself.
I'm hearing that, but that's not me. I hear that.
You hear it, all right. Well, I'll tell you what. Can you call back on that? Are you on the number I gave you?
I'm on that same number, but it's not.
No, don't. Wait, are you calling on the number I gave you or the one I gave out on the line on the air?
The number you gave me.
All right. Well, we got to get rid of this. Call back. All right. And for those who want to call in who are not Chris, call 1-212-209-2877, and you can talk about what has changed your life in terms of invention or innovation or technology. Chris, is this you?
Is it gone?
Oh, see, you're calling on the right number now. Okay, now we got regular callers calling. Hello, you're on the air. Hello. Okay.
Still just me.
Yeah, somebody's playing possum. Hello, you're on the air.
Hi, Mike.
Yes. Who's this?
Hi, how are you?
Okay, who's this? What's your name?
This is Greg.
Greg. All right, so how long have you been listening to the show, Greg?
Going 6 months now.
6 months? Okay, all right. You're a recent convert. So what do you want to tell me? What technology or innovation has changed your life?
I think what changed my life is heuristic data mining. Where
Mining, right?
Data mining, yeah.
Data mining. Talk to me. Now, explain to those who don't understand what data mining is, what data mining is.
Well, I'm not a techie, but in layman's terms, it's the ability to harvest information and format it into a, lack of a better term, more digestible format.
Sort of like what we do with information here on Night Shift.
Compressed information? Is that what you're saying? Compressed information?
No. Distilled.
Distilled.
Distilled information. Isn't that what you'd say? It's sort of distilling it down to the essence, so it's digestible. Yes, that's what we do with reality. You can't understand reality listening to Night Shift. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Say that again.
So it makes research quite accessible and comprehensible. And with this technology that, in essence, decades ago, affords people or researchers or people who are truth seekers to find information that somehow disambiguates what we live in, the paradigm, the lie, the facade, the matrix. And that's what I love about data mining. It affords you that access.
What do you do for a living, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm a logistician.
A logistician. I love it. Yes.
Yeah.
Not unlike Spock. All right. So, disambiguation. Disambiguation. That's an interesting word. That should be the Night Shift word of the night. Disambiguation. Because that's what we strive for in life. Do you agree?
I agree. I totally agree, Mike.
Chris, do you agree? Chris, are you striving for disambiguation? Are you striving for disambiguation? I want to know.
You know, he's talking about data harvesting. Here's the only downside about my innovation of the iPhone that I don't like. There is a place on your iPhone that stores every place you've ever been. And
you can turn that off, by the way.
What you can, but it's called significant locations. But most people don't know how to go in.
Significant locations.
Yeah, it's not locations.
That's a good name for an album too.
Exactly. And every place you've been since you activated your iPhone is there, and it's cataloged, and when you were there, exactly what it basically almost to the address you went to. It is a lot of information. So.
Listen, that's why I'm still running OS 9. You know what I'm saying?
It doesn't matter it doesn't matter.
Listen, they didn't have it in OS 9. I'm telling you.
You're still running OS 9.
I am. Go ahead.
I stopped all the upgrades too, but even with all of that, they now can also, when you use your mouse, there is a program that by how you use your mouse, they can tell whether you have any neurological problems that will be coming down your line. In other words, they can now see whether you would have some kind of a neurological problem in the coming years. Wow, like that phone thing going on.
It comes back.
So the amount of things that are available that are just you're not even aware that is even happening is scary. That's the other part of that's the downside of the equation. You know, do we give up all our privacy?
Well, that is we sort of do. I mean, you sort of give in. It's like they push the next upgrade on you, and the next upgrade is even more obnoxious and even more pushy because the next upgrade makes it harder for you to say no. I don't want to upgrade. You know, and then all your apps start telling you no, you got to upgrade or you can't use us anymore.
I think they got us when we had to give in our Retina.
Listen, I never did any of that. I still use a passcode.
That Face ID, that was it. That's your DNA right there, man.
Listen, but what if... what's
the soul.
What's the guy they say you look like? What's the guy you say you look like?
Keegan-Michael Key.
Keegan-Michael Key. So with you and Keegan-Michael Key, you can steal each other's phones. Here it is. All right.
Hello, you're on the air.
Hello, you're on the air.
Yes.
Yes, Tom.
definition
You're amazing,
of
Tom.
iPod?
Everybody
Can you tell
else
me?
gets cut off, but you're still there. What's that?
Can I ask Tom a question, Mike? Can I ask him a
Sure,
question?
please.
Tom,
Yeah.
what kind of phone do you have? You have a flip phone?
No, I have a landline.
Of course he does. What are you talking about? He's not a partial Luddite. He's a full-blown Luddite. Hello, you're on the air. All right, look at that. Hello, you're on the air. Hello?
Hello?
Yes? Who's this?
Hey, this is Louis
Louis. So, Louis, where are you calling from?
from Manhattan.
Manhattan, all right. So, Louis, how long have you been listening to the show?
Oh, man, since, we spoke many times before already, but I've been listening since 95.
Oh, before the dark times. before the empire. All right, so Louis, what technology has changed your life and how? What or innovation has changed your life and how?
All right, I'm going to answer that question. Also, after I answer that question, can I make a comment about anonymity? I can't even say it. Anonymity on the internet.
Anonymity, yes. The anonymity of horror. Yes, go ahead.
Well, the technology for me is hands down virtual reality, man. I don't know if you tried it.
Of course I've tried it.
Wow, you're
I've tried
right.
it.
You're right.
So it's changed your life. Tell me how it's changed your life. Virtual reality has changed your life.
I don't know, like, change my life is probably a strong word, but
Yes,
it's definitely, I would definitely say, like, it's improved it. It made it a lot more fun.
Oh, okay, your life is more fun because of it. Now that's a commercial. Yeah. My life is more fun because of virtual reality. All right, that's a good commercial. Okay, so VR.
The social apps in there is just amazing. I mean, I'm not the type of person that like I'm not really a shut in. Like I can actually like talk with people and interact and have a good time in real life as well. But the stuff you can do in virtual reality, man. I mean, like
so you're
I was just in a room.
You're socially ambidextrous, is what you're saying.
I guess I don't know, but I was in this app. There's an app called Big Screen.
You know what it is? I'm sorry to interrupt, but what you're really saying is, this is your Ready Player One. This is your oasis.
Socially
virtual reality is the oasis.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
I was going to ask him what he thought of that movie, but go ahead. You went on this app. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I downloaded this app on the. I'm using the Oculus Go. I have the PlayStation 4 VR and I have the Oculus Go VR. So I'm collecting all the VR headsets. I'm really into this thing.
It's more advanced than what Jack had.
I know.
Yeah. There's actually two different types of VRs. There's
I'm sorry. You've listened to Niteshift since 95. What's happened to you, bro, man? Get out.
Get out of the Matrix. Get out of the Matrix. Go ahead. Please finish.
Yeah, so I downloaded this app. It's called Big Screen. And I know you guys like to watch movies. Yeah, I know you guys like to watch movies, comment on movies. And I'm in this big virtual movie theater. I think it was like 8 other people. And we're just sitting down watching a movie. Somebody's streaming a movie, and we're watching it. And it's like you're almost in the theater.
Wait.
Talking with people, interacting. It's great.
Wow, virtually in a movie theater. Well, that's the future right there. That's the future. That's the future of release. Like, you sit at home and pretend you're in a movie theater, and you can interact with people if you want to. That's the future of digital distribution.
Wait, so do you get to bring a date with you, into the big screen place?
You could bring somebody with you.
Like,
couldn't you bring a fantasy date? Couldn't you bring like an alien
No,
chick?
but wait a minute. Listen to this. I think this is what you're trying to say.
A triple-breasted woman from Eroticon 6.
I think it's more like this. You know how we have friends on Facebook? So your friend on big screen says, "Hey, do you want to join in on watching the movie together?"
Is that how it goes?
No, I don't know. But
there is, it is. And actually, it's funny that you mentioned that because with Oculus Go, it's connected to Facebook. So there's a whole nother side of Facebook.
Oh wow!
People don't know about
connected.
Wait, so what do you use? Do you use a Samsung thing like a?
No, I'm using the Oculus Go. It's only
$100,
right? $199. Yeah, $199.
So is it really worth it?
Oh, yes. Oh, for sure.
Of course it is. What are you talking about? He's gone on to the movies with Angelina Jolie.
How many hours do you use the virtual reality headsets a week?
Exactly. How addicted are you?
A week?
A week?
A week. Well, you got to...
Monday through Friday.
I would say 14 hours.
Wow.
That is a lot.
14 hours. That's almost 2 work days.
About 2 hours a day.
Hello, you're on the air.
Hi, Mike. It's me. I got dropped. I called back.
Okay. Who is this? What? Who?
Greg.
Okay, Greg, you can hold back. All right, stay there. All right, Greg, did you get to finish what you were going to say?
Yeah, I did. As a matter of fact, yeah, it was just a short.
Oh, okay. All right. And you're into VR too?
I beg your pardon?
Have you?
Virtual reality?
Yes.
No,
it hasn't changed your life. It hasn't changed your life. It changed his life.
Yeah, well, I like the human interface. I think that's healthier.
That's very late 20th century of you, by the way. I just want to know you to know that's not very digital of you. You like analog relationships? Is that what you're saying? I like analog relationships.
Yeah, because I'm quite sentient. So virtual reality doesn't work for me, really.
I understand. I just figured out what that beeping is.
What is it?
That was the illogic of creating an online, on-air phone line that has call waiting. Hello, you in the air. Hello.
Yeah, Mike, still here.
Yeah, I know you're there, Greg. Who else is here? Hello? All right. Playing possum. Hello, you on the air. Hello.
Yeah, I got disconnected. I wanted to make my comment about the anonymity.
All right. What was your comment about the anonymity?
All right. Well, you're talking about how if people are not anonymous, it'll combat the trolls. People can't troll because their name's out there. But I feel that being anonymous also anonymous. I can't even say being anonymous.
Anonymous. Also, yes.
It also helps the victim sometimes. Like sometimes somebody who may be victimized online or trolled, they can go on there and nobody know their identity. I mean, I know there's doxing and all that type of stuff that goes on, but I mean, like, before all of that, I think that being anonymous also protects victims. So I don't think it's really a bad thing for the internet to be anonymous. I just think that people need to be a little more careful with who they talk to.
There's pros and cons to everything.
That's
there's the good and the bad of
everything. I was just going to say everything can be corrupted to evil.
True. Blockchain.
Right.
That's right.
Has its dark sides now, and it just started.
But what you just said is that it links to Facebook. So once you open that door, you've just opened up all your personal not your personal information, but a lot can be told
Listen,
from your Facebook page.
The worst thing that exists on planet Earth right now is not Russia. It's called Facebook.
Yeah,
I don't even use.
My comment was that Napster killed the music business, and Facebook killed the world. I mean, that's what
Facebook killed the world. There it is.
Facebook, I never use that thing. Like I have one account, and I just use that to either play some type of digital game, whatever. I never use it for what people use it for. I don't look up my news on it. I don't do any of that type of stuff like that. I have VR on it, but that's about it.
But see, so many small businesses now have had to go into the Facebook model in order to garner some business from the public. I see it all the time. I see a lot of people doing doing their business through Facebook.
Listen. The whole industry in terms of advertising has progressed with technology faster than anything else.
2 billion users.
Well, I find that Facebook.
I'm still hoping for MySpace to come back. That was my thing.
It would remain that way if it weren't for NSA and
MySpace
and the
is
other
my social
security
media.
agencies.
I'm sorry. What'd you say, Greg?
I said Facebook and platforms such as Facebook, they're benign. They would have remained benign if it weren't for the security agencies like NSA and other security agencies that use them kind of weaponized.
Well, I disagree. I don't think they're benign. I think that they, like everything else,
got corrupt.
Not corrupt first, but they got monetized. And what can you really monetize? We live in the information age. Well, remember that the information age,
privacy is
the
what's being
information age
monetized
means the currency of the information age is information. The more I know about you, the more I can predict what you're going to buy, how much money you got to buy it, everything about you. That's information. Even the whole movie pass thing, the whole concept of movie pass was to gain as much information of people who would sign on to something that was giving, away something for nothing. They were essentially buying people's spending movie habits to create a database they could sell.
No, basically create an avatar.
Yeah.
Of
eventually
who you are.
We are all avatars at this point.
Yeah.
Jack, since you're here and it's already come out and it's made a ton of money and it's the 7th most successful Marvel film, what's your thoughts on Captain Marvel? Why do you think it's been getting trashed the way it has?
I don't think it's been getting trashed. I think there was one article that said that Rotten Tomatoes, that there was a particular group of people.
Yes, they were trying to bomb it. Yeah,
that they were trying to bomb it from the audience perspective, but not from the film critic perspective. The critic loved the film. 82%. They loved it, and it was 33% from the audience. Which kind of, a lot of people look at Rotten Tomatoes and go, oh, they ignore the critics rating and really look at the purity of the moviegoer, which is the audience one. But now that's manipulated now.
By the anonymity of the trolls.
The anonymity of the trolls. So now that's no longer to be trusted, a source to be trusted, right? Because now it's being somehow controlled or manipulated somehow. So for me, it went from 33 to 52%. So now it's half better than what it used to be, right? I think the people have spoken. 6th largest box office film in history. First female-led biggest blockbuster in movie history. And we can go on and on and on and about the amount of records that are broke internationally. It made more money than Wonder Woman did internationally. This is a historic film. It's a benchmark for what Marvel can do now with inclusion and diversity. But they've created, for 10 years, the model to be able to finally create the I'm not going to say the word the perfect female front-led blockbuster superhero film, but damn, man, I mean, close to it.
Well, what they've been able to do with Black Panther in this is they've been able to take an established universe and now diversify it. And that's what happened in the comics. It was an established universe that reflected.
Well, the comics have always been much more progressive
than
the film.
But again, for the first 10, 15 years of Marvel Comics was, primarily with the exception of the things that Stan Lee was doing in the late 60s. And again, that's, comics and culture and stories reflect the times. So the things that were beginning, even the name of Black Panther and everything that he was and the acknowledgement of him being, the king of this African, it was a whole sensibility and awareness of the world that was happening in the 60s for Stan Lee to even come up with that. But what I think is interesting about what you're saying and what has happened with Captain Marvel, coming back to the idea of decentralization, without centralization, without governing, without checks and balances from something centralized, it can be abused by those who would take that freedom and abuse it.
That's just the human nature of everything, right?
So where
Adam and Eve? It just goes back to that, the good and the bad. I mean, from the beginning of mankind, of history, there's been good and bad in every single thing. Nothing is perfect. So you build a new technology, trust me, someone will attempt to corrupt it. And it's funny that this
and hence there'll be a science fiction movie.
There'll be a movie made about it.
Exactly. Go ahead.
But this was a campaign against. It wasn't so much like a technology. It wasn't a bunch of trolls just trying to mess with technology. Like we call them neckbeards. They basically had an issue.
Wait, what do you call them? Neckbeards?
Yeah, neckbeards. Because if you look, most of the guys that in the movie,
they have beards in their neck.
Yeah, well, yeah, basically, they just have those big grizzly beards. Those guys. But anyway, they were upset with Brie Larson because of stuff that she said about if you listen to everything that she said in her speech, she was talking about mostly critics. She was just saying that
we need more diverse critics.
More diversity in critics.
We need more diversity with critics is what she was saying. But for whatever reason, they took it as she didn't want white guys to watch her movie. And that's how the whole campaign started. And then you had other...
Right, and these guys are trying to flex their power, their influence, on. And it's okay, here's my Rotten Tomatoes score. I just influenced your bad movie because a beautiful girl like you will never look at a guy like me.
And why isn't she smiling?
And why isn't she smiling and standing straight for me? Because I can make or break your movie. Right. It's that false power, that what do you call it? Delusions of grandeur. that the internet critic seems to think that he holds today.
Well, it's interesting. Not just the internet critic, but that specific word, the internet critic, that person who has a computer and an opinion. Does that make you a critic?
We've had this conversation before on my podcast. I mean, we could be here for the next 2 hours,
Easily.
my man. Easily.
All right. Well, you're tuned to listener-sponsored radio, WBAI. It's 11:43. We've got about 17 minutes left to the show. And this has been, and still is, Night Shift.
Night Shift.
You can find us on the web. We have a website. You can go listen to shows going back for over 10 years anyway. And Chris Taylor is on the phone. He's been the co-host since the very beginning in the late 20th century. And Life is like sciencefiction.com. Lifeislikesciencefiction.com. Just go to that website and you'll find all kinds of things. All kinds of Life is Like Science Fiction, baby toupees, all kinds of things that you really need to have in your life. Or you can find us on Facebook. Niteshift. Night Shift. Where life is like science fiction. Hello, you're on the air.
Yeah, I'd like to say, when you talk about the comics, what kept Abbott and Costello helped their career, what helped their career was Mutt and Jeff. Remember Mutt and Jeff?
No.
The comics that helped their career, you think? Okay, go ahead.
Mutt and Jeff was
Please
in the
pull
comics.
this concept together for me.
Yeah, I say Mutt and Jeff was in the comics. In other words, they were two hapless characters. When Abbott and Costello came along, a lot of people connected them with that comic strip.
Oh, wow. So they were the genesis, basically the main influence on Abbott and Costello.
And Abbott and Costello kept Mutt and Jeff alive, too, because Mutt and Jeff, as the years went on, they got more like Abbott and Costello in the later comics.
Well, let me ask you, what about Laurel and Hardy? How do they figure in there?
Well, Laurel and Hardy were precursor to Abbott and Costello.
And precursor to Mutt and Jeff.
Hello?
All right, yeah, well, you're getting a call waiting. Hello, you're in the air. Okay. Hello, you're in the air. Okay, interesting. Hello, you're in the air. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, who's this?
Mike?
Yes?
Mike, it's Barry from the People's Republic of Syosset calling.
Barry from the People's Republic of Syosset. Yes, Barry. You have an important information.
Yes, actually, before I forget, because I had a concussion recently, so everything's new again. The fellow waiting for the analog comeback, it never left. But if he's interested, if I could mention it, there's an artist who wrote a song called Analog Man, Joe Walsh. He might find that tune very, very interesting, Analog Man by Joe Walsh. Anyway, I just wanted to mention my dad, he worked, he went through World War II, and he got trained in high-energy electronics after the war. And
that was a field, high-energy electronics. Interesting.
Right. He came out, and, of course, he couldn't get employment, in any normal field. But he ended up working for a very high-tech European company, and he brought home in the early 60s an Norelco cassette recorder. And at that time, the cassette was very new. It wasn't even available in America. And it really changed my life. It was analog,
wow,
of course.
Dude.
I know. I was very, we almost got him in trouble because my sister and I commandeered the little cassette. It was like a C60.
Okay. All right. I'm going to tell you, it's funny you're saying this because that would have been my choice as what technology changed my life. They had some little thing in the 80s. It was like I forgot what they called it, where it was like a press and play or some kind of thing where you could record. It was blue. It was blue. They had it in blue, red. But oh no, that was the Radio Shack. It was too expensive. But no, I had, and believe me, making tapes. I used to pretend to do a late night radio show that I called I Don't Know, and and it was on like late at night, 3 o'clock in the morning, and it would take weird calls, and I had like a co-host, and I'd play weird music, and clearly, obviously, it was a precursor to doing Night Shift. But so yes, that was. So I'm with you.
Well, what happened was, I got into audio, and there's so much going on. Analog never left. I'm kind of like proud to admit that I never bought any digital CDs.
Wow.
Because
Do you regret it?
No, actually, I'm very proud because the SACD, the Super Audio, kind of bombed out. Everybody's into files now. The compression algorithms are so poor, no one knows what good audio quality is anymore.
Absolutely right.
I mean, there's so much distortion. The distortion, like even in your board that you've got, your board, if you have a good enough tuner, you can hear the distortion if your ears are good enough. And even though it's digital, there's a conversion problem which has never been acknowledged by anybody. The bit rate, the square. I mean, if you really get into it, it's cheaper to do it the cheapest way, and the cheapest way is the most disgusting way. And I'm an analog dude, and
So wait a minute. So what is the purest way to listen to audio, to music?
Right now, it would be get like a 30 IPS analog tape deck, like a Studer Revox running 30 IPS. And
IPS stands for inches per second, just so you know.
Right. You just have to be English units, not metric. But that's pretty much close if you want to do that and get some type
Listen,
of...
you're talking Chris's language now, just so you know. Chris is going to marry you.
No. It's funny. I've been listening to BAI since like 1978, and when Fass was like a young guy. But I was listening to you when you were on midnight, late night. But the station has changed, and everybody is into like no eye contact and anonymity, and it's very sad because you speak with someone, and everybody's talking in digital riddles. And I have yet to meet
digital
a person
riddles.
Yes. Everything is like filed, and it's beyond my wheelhouse. Most of your people don't even know what a wheelhouse is, except maybe Gilligan's Island might know what a wheelhouse is. But it's very sad, Mike.
Chris lives in a wheelhouse. Chris, tell him about your wheelhouse.
Here's the bizarre irony of this. Yesterday, one of my old bandmates just went to one of my other old bandmates and just acquired the old cassettes from our old days of our jams back in the 80s.
What was that like? What was that sound like to you? Was it foreign? Was it a foreign sound?
Just got the cassettes, so some of them are on Memorex and whatever, and there was one cassette in there that was
Memorex.
Corvette.
Right.
Memorex.
The metal.
Is it live or
you know what?
Is it Memorex?
The metal cassette deck tape. They went to like a 3 3/4 IPS, like a high speed. That response was so good, but you can't get the stuff anymore. And try to go into a big box store and say, I want a deck. And they don't even know what you're talking about. You gotta. Everything is a problem now, Mike.
Listen to me. If you say Walkman, somebody's like, "What?"
Right. I'll tell you that Walkman, the cassette Walkman was wonderful, and try to find that anymore.
Well, let me ask you this: what technology that is now obsolete do you miss the most?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That's a good one. I would say like my ancient tape deck, because you try to get parts and like a tube amp. At least the distortion is musical, but a digital amp that distorts, it grates on my ears.
This is true, sir. Digital distortion. There's nothing worse.
I have to jump in with a heavy one. The DAT machines that are out today.
The DAT machine.
The DAT machines are breaking because the the belts inside them are falling apart, and there's nobody to fix DAT machines. So you could have a $2,000 back in the day, a $2,000 Panasonic DAT machine. I mean, I don't know if you've had this problem, Mike, but basically, if you have a DAT machine that's still working,
dude, I have 4 DAT machines still working. I have 4 portables that are still working, and listen,
that's unbelievable.
Listen to me. I know. I kept buying them. Trust me.
Wait, are they now a collector's item or something?
I invested heavily in much abandoned technology.
Eventually, the belt goes, and if you have a DAT tape stuck in the machine, you can wind up losing some information. So you have to transfer everything.
I do. I need an assistant to come in and
back up, and then hope that
transfer everything.
I tell you, what you could do, you could get some ancient recording, like on vinyls or long play records, and they have a laser which could track it so you don't damage the grooves, and go through
damage the grooves.
The analog grooves. But
I'm with you. I just like the sound.
I met a lot of people, like the old Empire Troubadour 698 turntable with a 7.5-pound platter. That is excellent. Or the Panasonic Technics, the DJ turntable with the belt.
The Technics. Dude. All right, so listen, we are coming to the end of our show, and we're going to be coming up on Sports Qualified. But I do want to say that I've really enjoyed Jack Rico being here. Jack, have you enjoyed doing the show?
Wait, hold on. The show's about to end?
The show's about to end.
I'm going to turn into a pumpkin, Mike. I don't want the show to end, man.
I know. Listen, I don't want the show. It's the show that never ends. We're going to take over the station. We're going to lock the door, and M. Saeed is just going to have to be a co-host for the next 8 years.
Mike, you're doing a fantastic job, Mike, and don't let them run over you, if you know what I'm... Illegitimate non-carborundum.
Illegitimate non-carborundum. Is that a band? Is that a band?
It's an ancient Latin, means don't let those who are of illegitimate birth abrade you. It really means don't let the blank you blank, if you know what I'm saying.
All right. Well, I began with Jerry Goldsmith, and I'm going to end with Jerry Goldsmith. I blew Jack away because I played one that was Dominic Hauser and Roy Weigard doing this.
I'd love to hear the Man from U.N.C.L.E. theme if you got
course.
It, man.
Well, that's also Jerry. But no, I don't have that with me tonight. But I'm playing Chinatown. This is an EC remix of Chinatown.
Actually, you and Razy on trumpet, man. You're the best, Mike. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, man. All right. So, Chris, I don't have to say anything about Jerry Goldsmith except that this is how we connected.
We miss him.
And I do miss him. And Jack Rico, he completely got it. When I played this Jerry Goldsmith, he was like, what is this? What is this?
I was like, okay, we're officially brothers from another mother, man.
There it is.
Yeah, so, that's pretty much how Mike and I bonded.
There it is. So you can follow us on Twitter, NITESHIFTZ. That's us on Twitter, and you can see all the Life is Like Science Fiction that we post daily. Or you can follow us on Facebook, NITESHIFT. Or you can go visit us online and download a lot of podcasts to carry Night Shift with you, lifeislikesciencefiction.com. Now, Jack Rico, where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Jack Rico, Facebook, Jack Rico 40, and please give the Highly Relevant podcast a try. I think it's great conversations with Mike Sargent and with other film critics, other journalists, executives, directors.
He's so modest. First of all, Highly Relevant. He had Robert Rodriguez on. He had what's his name, Fonso Caron on. He's got there's nobody he can't get. He's Jack Rico.
Nice.
Exactly.
Well, I'm using my contacts at the movie studios.
Whatever. He's Jack Rico. Just remember that. He's
so
Jack
Highly
Rico.
Relevant podcast, iTunes, Spotify. Would love for you to come visit and hang out with us for a little while.
All right. I'm also going to play. This is another Jerry Goldsmith. This is from theme to a Burt Reynolds detective thriller called Seamus. It just shows you why Jerry is Jerry. But I'm Mike Sargent, and here with Jack Rico. Jack Rico.
Thank you for having me tonight. I had a lot of fun.
I hope you come
Thanks,
back.
Mike.
I'm going to put you in rotation, Jack. Until next time.
Wait. If anybody wants to.
Oh, yes, that's right, Chris. I'm sorry. Chris, sorry. How do we find you, Chris?
I'm on Instagram. Reach Antiques. Spell it out. Reach Antiques. One word.
How do you spell antiques?
REACH ANTIQUES. QUIES.
Now, what will we find on your Instagram, Chris?
On my Instagram, you'll find all these photos I put up and stuff that I come across. And I got a lot of followers and people like all my crazy. I put up a photo a day of something cool.
All right, there it is.
A lot of cool things.
A photo a day.
You know, Mike, the same thing you look at.
I want to hear your pitch. That's all.
Oh, my pitch is Reach Antiques. Come join. Send me a message. Say you're one of the listeners or whatever. I'll take care of you.
He'll send you a postcard. Until next week.